right. If you're really into this next topic, some of you may have seen there's a great Star Wars pinball shirt in the shop for a Celebration shop. I heard the lines are a lot better today, so if you want a cool shirt, I think it's one of the best ones in the shop. So our next speakers are going to present a topic I don't think we've ever covered before at Celebration, which is Star Wars pinball and arcade collecting. And here to tell you about it is Chris Fawcett and David Gall.
Thanks. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to go through this kind of chronologically, starting back in 1978. We're going to walk you through every pinball machine and arcade, stand-up arcade game, and then we'll give you a little bit of collecting tips at the end. So first we're just going to show you what's out there. So Dave's going to be covering mostly the pinball, and I'm going to be doing mostly the arcade machines.
All right. Well, you know, pinball has been around, I guess, technically since 1869, when in Cincinnati they invented the plunger for the ball. But if you want to talk about Chicago, the golden years of pinball has really been here in Chicago since the 1930s. In fact, majority of the manufacturers are still here in the Chicagoland area. And I would say about 90% of the working machines today were either designed or made right here in Chicago. So it's great to be presenting and doing this out here. To be ahead of him, though, in the list, I kind of had to cheat a little bit. And our first pinball machine is actually not made in Chicago. And it's not licensed, and it maybe has a little bit of a stretch to do with Star Wars. But it's the Space Gambler by Playmatic. As you can see, it's a very simple layout. Two flippers, some bumpers up in the top. You have your drop targets and a spinner. Slower game, still a little bit challenging. And you're asking, what does it have to do with Star Wars? As you look in the back glass, you have a rough version of an X-Wing fighter, a TIE fighter, RTD2 taking center stage, and I guess C-3PO showing his best poker face. So that's our start. There again, a company made that, and this was a bootleg version made in Spain. Probably the first one by Playmatic that was a SS machine.
And then moving on to 1979, the first arcade game is also going to be a bootleg. There was a game that was put out called Galaxy Wars. Clearly the company was banking on the popularity of Star Wars at the time because there were actually no Star Wars arcade games until 1983, believe it or not. But this one really, I think what I've heard the story is it actually really wasn't even maybe by the producer, but that it was hacked by local operators of arcades. So you'll see right here it says Galaxy Wars. On some of these machines, the people went into the code and changed that to say Star Wars. So that is literally the only thing about this game that is Star Wars. You can see the gameplay there. It looks nothing like Star Wars. But because there are some of these machines out there that say Star Wars on the opening splash screen, I went ahead and included it here.
All right. Up next is The Empire Strikes Back by Hankin of Australia. And the great thing about this machine is I think we have a little video of the back glass. And it has this amazing perpetual mirror. I love the Vader and the flames. I love the art that goes along with it. The worst thing about this machine is what you're hearing in the background. The music is incredibly annoying. The better you get at the game, the faster the music goes, and in my opinion, a lot louder it gets. So,
that's not a good way to suck people's quarters at an arcade. Make your game annoying.
Yes, you have a migraine, you have to quit, right? But this was a licensed pinball in Australia, and I believe only 350 machines were produced. And the licensing fee for this game was like $700. So a lot has come along since then. Some people really don't consider this also to be a true licensed unique pinball machine, since the top of this game looks like a game called Firepower, and the bottom looks like the game called Space Invaders. Similar layouts on wide-body machines. I think there's enough difference in there. I consider it a true unique pinball machine and the first Star Wars machine that was officially licensed. So, very basic play. Our next machine, however, is not licensed in my opinion. It's LTD of Brazil. I have never met anyone who's played this game. I think this is probably the rarest pinball machine that's out there. And you can see from the condition of this one, I'm not even sure that it works. The back glass is absolutely amazing, very tramp artish for the period, and a variety of different eras of Star Wars. The play field here is extremely simple. You've got two boppers, you've got a couple drop targets, a couple state targets, selections at the bottom. However, if you ever did want to play this game, it is amazingly close to the Close Encounters of the Third Kind pinball machine. So the only difference is there's like a little spinner up in the top of the Close Encounters pinball machine, which is actually kind of a fun effect of it. So if you ever see Close Encounters in your local arcade, you can say you've played the rare Star Wars machine.
All right, now it's kind of surprising considering how popular video games were in the late 70s and early 80s in arcades, and how popular Star Wars was, that there was no arcade video game until 1983 around Return of the Jedi. And that's when Atari released this game. It is the classic. Probably if you're over 35 or so, you've probably played this a ton when you were a kid. I'm going to start the video here. So there was 3 stages. The first stage, you were in space, shooting down TIE fighters, and you could even shoot their missiles. The interesting thing, this was the first game ever to feature actual dialogue, human dialogue. You can hear Luke's voice there in the background, and that was recorded and off the film, and they put the dialogue into the game. Second stage here is on the Death Star surface. You're shooting down these blocks, and there's some towers you can shoot down. Now, this game came in 2 different types. There on the left, you'll see the sit-down version. There's also a normal stand-up arcade-style game. So this here is the trench run. Interesting thing, if you ever play this game, a lot of people don't know this, but if you do not shoot any lasers during the trench run, you get a huge point bonus at the end of the round, which is fairly easy in the early levels, but gets to be practically impossible as you get to some of the later levels. And of course, we're coming down here, and we're going to see, for the first time in a video game, the destruction of the Death Star.
We have to see if Chris was good enough to blow up the Death Star in this demo.
Here we go. There we go. It says, "May the Force be with you" on the Death Star. I don't know if you've noticed that as it came out. Pretty rudimentary explosion. And here's the next game put out in 1984. They skipped Empire. And, I should also mention that last one was a very unique technology called vector graphics, which was kind of the first 3D looking video game. So it wasn't around for very long. If you remember, some of the games like Tempest was also a very popular vector graphics game. In 1984, Atari put out Return of the Jedi. This cabinet is fairly rare and hard to find.
Security deflector shield will be deactivated when we have confirmation of your code transmission.
You can hear there, it's like kind of even more rudimentary dialogue than the 83 game. This one was pretty hard. We're doing the typical raster type graphics here. The crazy thing about it is the whole screen was always on this angle. So as you're trying to use a joystick, it just was very confusing in which way you were pushing it. So this first scene is on the ground of Endor running the speeder bikes.
We will be here any moment.
And then you capture a ATST and start shooting logs rolling at you. These 2 scenes flipped back and forth. They were trying to create like a movie feel. You know, in movies, in the film, it cuts back and forth between the scenes on Endor and the scenes in space. So the video game makers were trying to do the same thing here. But it did get to be kind of pulled you out of the game when it would randomly switch right in the middle of while you were playing. You can see here they're fighting Star Destroyers, and here is the final scene with the Millennium Falcon going through the Death Star. And
Now lock onto the strongest power source. It should be the power generator.
It should be the power generator. So I'm sure you can probably guess what's coming up here. We're going to see another destruction of the Death Star. So we'll see how these get progressively better and better as we go on. This one's a little better than the vector graphics version. There we go.
There he goes.
All right, and then in 85, now we're back to the Empire Strikes Back. So not sure why these were out of order, but this was actually an upgrade kit for the original vector graphics game from 1983. They also made some standalone cabinets that were new, but the bulk of these were new boards that they would ship out, and the arcade owners themselves would swap the boards out into the machine to get an Empire Strikes Back version of the game. So several levels here, the best of which is clearly the level on Hoth, where you're shooting down AT-ATs by hitting them right in the eye. And also, unlike the first vector graphics game, there are 4 triggers. The second set of triggers in this game allowed you to shoot those tow cables. So, in all the rest of the scenes from both these games, all the triggers do the same thing. So here we are back in space, pretty much similar to the first level of the Star Wars game, just with a Star Destroyer in the background there, rather than the Death Star. And then next is probably the most boring and frustrating level of any arcade game for Star Wars, the asteroid field. It sounds cool in principle, but it's really hard to get through this without getting hit, and you feel like you just can't really avoid those things, and it's just dodging asteroids is not as fun as it seems. And the thing about these 2 games, they also had a very interesting control scheme. and where they would not only would the controls rotate left to right, almost like a steering wheel, but the grips in your hand would rotate front and back to allow you to have basically full two-dimensional placement of your shooting cursor on the screen and allow you to drive the vehicle a little bit through the space.
Are you sure the strangest thing about that game is you don't destroy a star or a Death Star?
Yes,
I kind of see. I see a pattern.
The first
in your
game
games,
did
buddy.
not destroy a Death Star. Yes.
All right. Our next pinball machine is going to be from Spain by Sonic of Spain. It's named Star Wars. Sonic always has been known for the crazy back glass. This one is certainly not an exception. You have the big Darth Vader head, and if you look closely, a lot of the ships and things are influenced probably more by Kenner than the actual ships in the movie. You can see Darth Vader's TIE Fighter and the TIE Fighters coming through in the corners, and the Millennium Falcon is, I think, right on of the one that I ran around the living room with. So, interesting game. You have 3 flippers, got bop bumpers, so classic play across the at the top, slingshots, spinning targets. To be honest with you, I have never played this game, nor have I known anyone who does. The big selling feature in their flyer and their literature, though, is something called cyclotron technology. I believe the cyclotron is up here in the left. So if you have been played one of these games, can tell us what cyclotron technology is, or perhaps you've been cyclotroned yourself, I would love to talk to you about this. So there again, just great photo art, simple layout, and a unique game from Spain. All right, up next is what I consider one to be the true Star Wars made in America classic pinball game. This is by Data East. It was the largest number of machines ever produced by this company that's known for doing short runs. There were 10,400 units made of this machine. 2 flippers, 2 slingshots, lots of ramps, an interactive R2-D2 that we'll have a close-up of here in a second, 2 kickouts, your bop-ups, very classic stationary targets. As you can watch, R2 kind of spins his head and makes suggestions to you, beeps at you. This is, I think, a really good pinball machine for somebody that wants something in their basement. Maybe it's because it has a little bit of a lure for kids. It's not really a hard game, but it has Star Wars sounds, has the LED in the background, and you can even get a unique little topper for it that looks very close to the Kenner's collector's case that many of us hauled around throughout most of the 80s and 90s. And, well, I think you and I carried a few around even this weekend, filling it with new toys. So, dot matrix in the center, great little toys, and really kind of honestly the first true U.S. pinball machine.
Hey, Dave, there's a Death Star there. Does it blow up?
We're catching you. We're catching you.
Okay.
The little door there opens, and you can put a pinball in there, but
I think it's still 2-0. Just want to make that clear.
Yes, it is.
Okay, the next video game is 1993. Sega put out a game called Star Wars Arcade, and we'll look at some of the graphics of this. This was really the first true 3D Star Wars arcade game. The vector graphics before, while they look 3D to our eye, are kind of simulated. This really had, what we would consider as 3D today with the graphics. So the first level here, you're out in space shooting down TIE fighters through an asteroid field, and then a second level where you're doing much of the same in the midst of a Star Destroyer fleet. This game came in 2 versions. There was a stand-up game that was just your typical style of stand-up arcade, and then on the left there you see the 2-player version, which is a sit-down version, where you had a pilot and a gunner. And here we go down on the Death Star surface, much like the vector graphics. But the pilot could control the ship and basically could shoot at what was in the dead center of the screen. Meanwhile, if you had a friend that wanted to play with you, he had another cursor on the screen that he could move anywhere on the screen he wanted, and that would be how the gunner would play the game. And here we are in a trench.
Chris, are we going to blow up any Death Stars soon?
We might. Let's see. So the crazy thing about this game is it kind of combines Star Wars and Jedi. And we're also flying a Y-Wing, which is interesting in and of itself. But you notice there we did the whole trench run, right? And we got to the end of the trench run, and now we're doing the run inside the Death Star from Jedi. So the game just kind of didn't really follow any real continuity of the films and just put levels together for fun. And did we just blow up a Death Star, Dave?
I think we just blew up another Death Star, Chris.
Oh, man. Well, let's watch here. See if this one's getting any better.
I think that's a pinball shooting out of the corner there just for scores.
That's not a Death Star? That's a giant pinball? Is that what you're saying?
Yes,
okay.
yes.
We're going to blow up a giant pinball here. Okay, here we go. Kaboom.
All right, back to the pinball machines. All right, the Star Wars Trilogy by Sega came out in 1997 as we were starting to see the Star Wars films come back in a new light. This combines really all of the movies, the first three trilogy movies in one machine. You'll notice some unique things on this table. For instance, there are actually micro machines in the table. You can see Darth Vader's TIE Fighter and Luke's X-Wing. There's a feature when you put the ball in the right place. You can shoot the pinball from the X-Wing, hopefully hit Darth Vader's TIE Fighter and take you to a multi-ball. A lot of the things you really look for in a modern pinball machine today, you've got the drop targets, you've got 4-ball, multi-ball. I really like the big guns across the top. You've got some targets up there, a few ramps. One of the neat things about this game is if you'll notice Han Solo and Carbonite over to your right, if you make that shot, you can answer one of 32 trivia questions. So, for instance, in Episode 6 original title, the title of the movie was Revenge of the Jedi. True or false, Chris?
False.
You just lost 300,000 points. Better luck next time. But really fun game. It's I think a lot of people will tell you it's kind of a simpler game. So if you're just wanting to have something in your game room or in your collection that novices can play, or perhaps you're wanting to get kids to get started playing pinball, it's a really good way to do that. Star Wars sounds, Star Wars music throughout, so definitely a nostalgia there.
Next game is 1998. This one was super popular. I'm sure a lot of you have played this game. I'm going to just go let this run in the background because I got quite a bit of the footage here. So Star Wars Trilogy, it went through all three of the movies. So your first section was A New Hope, and obviously we're going to see a Death Star destruction here. But you start out... You start out in space shooting the TIE fighters. I love the targeting on this. It was really intuitive with those blue squares popping up and telling you exactly what to do. The graphics are now getting way better than some of the earlier games, right? This one's really starting to look nice. Here's our trench run. Mission complete. All right. And, that's just a really nice shot there. Very dynamic. And it's clearly the best Death Star explosion we've had yet. Here we are on Hoth, probably my favorite level and the most fun. Out on Hoth, shooting down the AT-ATs and the AT-STs and the probe droids. Interesting thing here, though, is after this scene, we go inside and shoot snowtroopers inside the base. But if you guys remember, there's a cutscene from Jedi where they lock some wampas in one of the rooms. So they pulled this little fun level off of that cutscene. This was the only knowing thing about this game. There were two levels like this where you literally just watch for the arrows and push the joystick in the direction. It was really super fast, and you had super fast reflexes, and those levels are kind of just not very great, but the rest of the game is so good. So here we are finally in Jedi, and again we have, after the speeder bike scene, we're shooting some stormtroopers in the forest.
That Ewok just saved you a quarter, buddy.
Oh, yeah. This game was definitely a quarter eater. I mean, I remember dropping dollars and dollars and dollars into this game to try and get all the way through to the end. So, fantastic graphics, right? This is just a beautifully done game. Here we are back fighting TIE fighters again. Another Death Star surface run. And Dave, I think I'm going to get 2 points out of this.
Oh, 2 points?
This one.
I know where this is leading to then.
Because looks like we're going to destroy 2 Death Stars in this game. I don't know what I'm up to now, like 5? I think it's 5-0.
I think 5. You got to get 5 shots to blow this one up, if I remember correctly.
That is true, yeah. If you look in the center there are 5 little pylons. You have to hit, 4 pylons. You have to hit all 4 of those and then shoot at the center reactor to blow it up.
Let's blow this thing and get out of here.
It's a hit. Here we go. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Racking up the points. All right. I've got a brief little video that talks about the Star Wars episode machine by Williams. And they do a better job explaining why it's special, and I think you'll see it very quickly. This was the first pinball machine to really tie video and put it on the table itself. It's a smaller table than what most of them are, but as you can see here, you take your pinball and you interact there. We're getting some things and knocking Jar Jar over. We're making escapes. We're going to fight with battle droids. This was supposed to be really the machine that revolutionized this, and a game before it, we're supposed to really revolutionize pinball and bring it into the year 2000. Unfortunately, that was not the case, even though you have 13 of these little different scenes to select for, and then you get to battle Darth Maul. You're going to see some Kenner toys kind of thrown in here throughout that we all recognize and probably had at one point in time. There's a great little wild magnet action in there that I think I just missed pointing out to you guys. It always makes it just difficult, but pretty much a standard set of shots throughout. It really just depends on the video to make it a little different, make it a little spin. One of the interesting Easter eggs in our game is if you get Jar Jar, the little target up there in the right, completing that, you get 19,992,510 points.
That's a weird number.
There is a reason for that number. On 10/25 in 1999, that is the day that Williams announced they were closing their pinball branch. So this would be the last pinball by Williams, and a little bit of a sad Easter egg built into the game.
Oh. All right, our next game is 2000. So this was actually a port. The next couple games you're going to see were ports from home console games. So this is Racer, obviously from episode 1. And you could play this 2-player at home on like a split screen on your, I don't know what it would have been at the time, a PS2 maybe. But the cool thing about the arcade game is it has 2 monitors and 2 seats, and you could play with a friend. This is a really fun game. I played this one a lot back when it was out, like in college or whenever. And yeah, just a really great game. I don't know what else I can say about it. The next one we've got is probably the rarest arcade game. It's from 2003 and from a company named Tsunami in Japan. So this again is a port. Gorgeous game, right? I love the graphics on this game. So this is Starfighter, again an episode 1 game where you play a Naboo starfighter.
Show us, Sarah, what we can do.
But I believe this was only released in Japan. I don't know that for sure, but the rarity of it just tends to make me believe that. But the most interesting thing about this game, if you look closely on the left there, you'll see that the chair has this like black collar underneath it. So this game, the seat actually would tilt to the left and right and forward and backwards as you flew. So as you're flying the fighter, you were getting a little bit of motion in your chair to move you around. I've never seen this game in person. I've never played it, obviously. I think it'd be a pretty fun one to try out if that seat's rocking back and forth as you're playing it. So this is the most latest video game on our arcade game on our list from 2014, the Star Wars Battle Pod. How many have played this? Star Wars Battle Pod? Yeah, it's if you can find one of these. There's actually, I think on the Bandai website, you can go in there and there's a locator. You can find one in your area. This is by far the best, most impressive Star Wars game. I really struggle between knowing if my favorite is this one or the original 83 vector graphics, because that one's such a classic, but this one is just so good. So there are a lot of levels on this one. I'm not going to show you all the levels because I don't have time, but suffice it to say there's Star Wars, Empire, Jedi. There's a level on Takodana from The Force Awakens. But the most interesting level is this one here called Vader's Revenge, I believe is what it's called. It is, as I play this, you'll see the timeline of this. And oh, look.
Did we kick things off with the blowing up Death Star?
We kicked it off this time with a blowing up Death Star. It's
Wow.
not at the end of the level, but at the beginning. So Vader's Revenge is all about Vader's TIE fighter, spun out. Apparently the story is he got it under control and then went back in there to shoot down as many rebels in revenge as he possibly could. So this is a really interesting, storyline, and it's fun to be shooting A-Wings and X-Wings and Y-Wings because that's the first time this has happened in an arcade game. Of course, there are the PC games from back in the day, X-Wing and TIE Fighter, where he sometimes flew as the Imperial. But this is the only one where you get to fly as the Imperial in an arcade-style game. You can see it on the left there. On the left is like a door you actually open, and you get inside this thing, and the door shuts. So you really feel like it's all around you. The screen is quite large. On some of the levels, you like take off from a hangar, and as you're taking off and the hangar starts to go by and speed up, there's actually a fan that turns on in front of you and blows some air in your face. The speakers are all around you. It's definitely the most immersive of all the arcade games. And I'll go into, there's a local arcade place, and I'll just go in and put like $30 on a card and just, play it for an hour. It's a lot of fun, and the graphics are fantastic.
All right, our next scene is he kicks off our video here. May seem actually more like something we would blow up a Death Star in, but actually this is a pinball machine, and it's made by Zen Studios, who is here today. They got the license to do electronic Star Wars pinball back in 2012. They currently have 19 different games available. They are downstairs in the main room, in the main display,
Exhibit hall.
Exhibit hall. Thank you. Couldn't think of the word. They were down in the main exhibit hall showing off their wares. These can be bought for as little as $10 a piece on your apps, and they are available in very different things that you would have at home. For instance, they are. I'm losing my spot. We'll come back to that in a second. You can also download these into your own customizable machines. You can, if you're electronically savvy, you could probably make one of these for around $1,200. They also have a $6,000 make-it-home version that is awful cool down there, to where they're bringing it out today for you to display and look at. They're also going to bring a deluxe, like super LED, lots of lights version that's going to be available for commercial users. So definitely something to check out as you're here doing things with them today. These are available on PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Windows 10, Android, iOS, and streaming PC. And announced just at this show, they're also going to be available on the Nintendo Switch. So they are the first pinball on Nintendo Switch. Lots of fun games. If you haven't had a chance to go down and see those folks and talk about them, this is what you're going to see down there. So it's a usual point of view. And this game, I think, has like 6 flippers. So you can do lots of various different things that you can't typically do on pinball. They have different fields of view. There's kind of a streaming, kind of a comet effect on the ball, so you can see where it's going and kind of tell you like the judgment of the speed. I really like that. On their custom machine, it shakes. It has different flippers for different values, and it's going to be made where you can adjust. And as they release more machines, you can get them. And there's some great titles that are not Star Wars available as well. So definitely worth checking out. All right. This one is, in my opinion, probably as good as it gets for Star Wars pinball. This is Stern's. They have 3 versions of this. They have a limited, which is your basic, that's still available. They have a pro, which has a little bit different back glass, a couple new concepts, and they also have their premium. The premium is limited to a couple hundred, or is limited to 800 units. It is sold out at this time, but still a really wonderful game. And you will be happy to know, Chris, in this, in the upper left-hand corner, there is an exploding Death Star in pinball.
Oh, it explodes.
So,
awesome.
Yes, it does.
Took you to 2017 to catch up to me.
This is what's really fun about this. You have the standard targets, you have the ramps, you have different missions that you can go on. There's a little video screen you can see here in the middle, actually on the play field. There's a video across at the top below your headers, and there's multiple missions that you go on at the same time. It's a very fast game. But if you're having trouble perhaps blowing up the Death Star in this game, there's a lot of other different shots you can hit. The biggest difference between the different variations between the Pro, the Premiums, and the different levels are just some of the ingredients in it. Maybe there's a little bit under the hood, maybe a little bit better sound system, maybe some different things put into them. But you're going to see a lot of classic characters. You get the classic sounds of Star Wars, and it's just a really, really fun game. So it's one of those, it's a little more than what some of the earlier ones were, but it's a challenge. And after having it with a friend's house, we're playing it for about 2 years now, and there's still things I haven't discovered in it. So great game.
All right, so that's our list. So now we're going to get into actually collecting these. So Dave, first question for you. How much are you going to pay if you're looking to buy a pinball game?
If it's they top out today. If you're wanting one of the pros or the premiums, they're usually around $9,000, as I believe what that was. That's probably your high end. You can pick up one of the lower versions from Stern for probably around $7,000. Older games that we've seen, you can probably pick up for a couple grand. Probably starts around $1,800. If you're willing to get out your soldering gun, do a little bit of electronics under the hood, you can sometimes get them for as little as a couple hundred.
Okay, that's pretty similar to arcades as well. Some of the older games, like the original Star Wars Vector, is so popular that'll go for $2,000 to $3,000. The sit-down cockpit version a little more. I think the Battle Pod game, when it was released, they were selling those for about $9,000 or $10,000. So a similar range. Like some of the rarer ones, like the Jedi one, would probably be a bit more. But you can get these fairly reasonably, a couple grand for a machine in your house. So I probably spent more of that in quarters throughout my childhood than could have bought one. So some of the collecting concerns, transportation, obviously these things are large. If you can in any way find one locally, that is the best. There are some local shops in some cities. Also, Craigslist is a great resource. If you just do a search there, sometimes you'll find one that pops up. If you can get one within 100 miles or so and rent a U-Haul, you're going to be way better off than, say, buying one on eBay and carting it across the country, which might cost you $600 or $800 just to get it to your place. But even on eBay, you can search regionally, so that's another idea.
Right. Space is also an issue. That's one of the things you definitely have to think about. Even if you have a little area set aside for a pinball machine, if you have a wide body, your space that works for one machine may not work for the other. There's other considerations in that as well as the weight. How do you want to carry this up and down the stairs? And you might get your friends to help you with it once, but sometimes when you tell them you're switching machines or adding like 4 or 5 machines, they sometimes don't return the call.
So how many pinball machines do you have, Dave?
I currently have one, and I switched that out. This is probably my 18th machine that I've had during the time of collecting.
Okay.
So,
I also have one, kind of two. I have the original 83 vector graphics game, but they make, and this was what we'll get into in a little bit here on maintenance, they make these kits now today that you can not only upgrade some of the parts and components that are prone to failure, but they also make an upgrade kit for the vector game to allow you to switch on the fly between the vector Star Wars and the vector Empire. So I have that one installed in my machine, so I actually kind of have 2 games. So let's get into maintenance a bit. You always want to use a good power filter and good surge protector on these, and it's not just the typical surge protector you would find that keeps you from getting a surge into the machine, but a power filter actually takes the incoming voltage, and smooths it out and makes sure it's nice and steady. Especially important the older the machine is. Newer machines are designed to handle this kind of thing way better. But if you have an older machine, definitely get it with that. It would help you keep the machine maintained and not break down as often. Learning to solder is good, especially for the arcade machines. If you don't have that, you make friends with an electrical engineer, which is what I do. I'm always bringing my boards in and like, Gary, can you put a new cap on there for me? There's a lot of great online resources. We'll show you on the next slide some URLs of these, but the collecting community is pretty technical and gets pretty in depth. I really think that some of the guys that are working on machines today understand way more about the electronics in these things than the original creators do. There are facts and guides about how to repair them. There are people that will actually take your boards, like if you could remove an electronics board, so if you can learn to disassemble them, which I recommend take lots of photos when you do, you can actually ship them the boards. So I've recently, mine went down 6 months ago or so. I literally pulled out every single board out of there. I packed it all in a box, shipped it to a guy. He repaired it. It cost me about $100 plus the shipping both ways. And I got it back and shoved all the boards back in, and it lit right up. So you definitely want to, when you first get one of these, if it's new, check to see if it's been refurbished. And if it hasn't been, do everything that the experts and the hobbyists recommend you do to refurbish these, because it will, especially the older ones, they will break down if you don't. So it's best just to go get all the modern components, all the modern replacement boards, do it all at once, send it off, have somebody that knows what they're doing, slam all those components down, and your machine will work for a lot longer.
I would especially encourage that in pinball. A lot of times you can, there's rubber bands, like giant rubber bands that allow you, like some of your flippers and some of your things, to reflect the balls. If you've got an older machine, chances are those will become brittle, and you're going to require you to disassemble things to get down to those. Like Chris said, take lots of pictures. In fact, I lay a folding table up next to my machine, and as I take something out, I set it over in the folding machine so I know where to go back and put those things a little bit later. But yeah, do it once, do it right, give everything a good scrub, get everything renewed, and just get ready to play. Yeah,
and the other thing, of course, a disclaimer, be careful. You are working with electricity. And don't just think because your game is unplugged, you're safe. On newer machines, that's probably true with modern components. On the older machines, though, especially the ones with like the CRT screens, the big old style monitors, those things hold a voltage. And actually, a funny story, my friend Gary, who I mentioned earlier that helps me solder on the boards and stuff, he was telling me a story that he one time was working on a television with a big CRT, and he went in there wrong, and it literally blew him across the room. So you have to be very careful. It's something like 10,000 volts those things can hold after you've turned them off. So got to be very, very careful with this stuff. So if you don't know what you're doing, there's some great YouTube videos that show you how to properly do this, and I was very afraid, but I managed to do it on mine, and I'm still here. So you just got to know what you're doing and be careful. And there are people that can help you with that. So I just wanted to show some pictures here. This is some shots of inside my Vector game, and it was really key to make sure that I knew where all these connectors went, right? There's 7 boards, I think, in the machine, and probably 15 to 20 connectors. So I take a lot of pictures to go, okay, this connector goes here and that one goes there, and the wires are colored, but they're dirty and dusty, so sometimes it's hard to see. So yeah, definitely be taking lots of pictures as you're disassembling stuff, so you know how to put it back together. Fortunately, on the Atari game, I think there's only 2 plugs that you can mess up, because either the plugs are different shaped, or in one case where the plugs are the same, the cables aren't long enough to reach to the wrong place. So it's pretty good, but sometimes you're like, where does this go? I don't even see where it plugs in, and your photos will really help you with that.
All right.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so online we talked about online references. GameDatabase.org is great for general information and photos of the different machines. ForumsArcadeMuseum.com is a great source for repair help, and I believe there is also forums out on that one, right? That
Yeah,
you can get
the forums on Arcade Museum are fantastic for helping you diagnose and repair things and finding people that can help you, whether you want to ship them to them or have them just walk you through taking some measurements with a multimeter or something like that. Those forums are invaluable to helping keeping these machines running.
Okay, arcadeshop.com is great for finding replacement parts, modern kits, that type of thing. In case you're having trouble finding a piece or something, a lot of times people have old store stock or they take machines apart and help you out with that aspect. And the IMDb is the Pinball Machine Database. They have a wonderful collection. It's a library of just about any machine you can imagine, and photos with it, some of the details. So really helpful in this presentation, and a great reference for a lot of other people. So there's a community. It's like Star Wars. It's just one more community out there.
Finally, we got a few places you can play here. These are just ones that are nearby to us. So for me, I'm from Charlotte, and these have been popping up a little bit. These like bar/retro gaming places. The one near me is called a Bari, obviously a fun take on Atari and bar. So they're often, you can go there and just, they have 10 or 15 or 20 different machines that you can play of all different kinds. So there's a lot of good ones of these around.
So yeah, absolutely. Galloping Ghost is a famous one here in the Chicagoland area over in Brookfield. Underground Retrocade also does a great job in West Dundee, a little bit smaller shop. If you're going south on your way home, Arcadia in McLean, Illinois, so it's about halfway between St. Louis and Chicago. Good little breaks, can't stretch your legs. They have 2 buildings that they have done, and all their machines, or whatever they cost back in the day, is what they cost today. If you're heading north, Geeks Mania in Madison, Wisconsin was very helpful in putting this together. And if you go down to Charlotte, please don't beat Chris's high score. That kind of upsets him.
You can come by my place and try out my machine, too.
Yes, and the best place to play, I know we're getting close to the end of the weekend here, but the Star Wars Celebration Exhibit Hall, like I said, has Stern and Zen. They've both been absolutely wonderful in helping us and getting some information to us. And go down there, check out their items, and check out their websites, because they're good people and they've got a really great product.
Yeah, and you can play down there, too. They have machines set up to play this weekend.
Absolutely.
So...
Okay, there's also some great pinball locator apps. So in case you're not going to one of those locations or can't get back down to the exhibit hall, Pin Finder and Pinball Map are really great, interactive. You can set the location on your phone, and they will tell you if there's games within in your area, like what the radius is. And there's also some options, variations on a couple where you can type in a machine, and it'll help you find out maybe where those machines are. So good way to get pinball people together.
All right. Thank you so much for attending. That's our panel.
All right. Thanks, everybody.